Once upon a time, deep in the depths of a gloomy, abandoned mansion that stood on the very edge of a small town, lived a woman named Margaret. She was known around the neighborhood as Bloody Mary, but that was far from where her story began. Margaret was a beauty with unusually swarthy skin and long black hair that always hid her face. No one ever saw her without her head and cloak, which covered her body as if she was always hiding from prying eyes. Rumors spread through the neighboring villages that Margaret had unusual powers. She could predict the future, cure diseases, and most importantly, curse her enemies. The townspeople feared her and considered her a witch, but no one dared to approach her to unravel her secrets. But one day everything changed. On a night when the full moon illuminated her house without interference, she went outside and began to read strange spells. Suddenly, a strange red moon appeared in the sky and a thick bloody cloud hung over the city. A few drops of blood stained the grass, and at that moment many of the townspeople felt that something terrible was happening. Margaret began to speak words that no one could understand, and then disappeared into the mist, leaving behind only the smell of blood and the darkness of the night. The next morning was filled with terror. People found their neighbors and friends murdered, with dried blood and strange ritual symbols on their bodies. Rumors of Bloody Mary grew more and more gruesome, and people left town in panic, not wanting to become the next victim. But Margaret didn't stop. She continued her dark rituals and bloody murders, and her house became a fortress of evil. Soon witch hunters came to town. Hoping to put an end to Bloody Mary, they broke into her home and began to fight her. But Margaret was stronger, and her blood magic won them over. She made them her puppets and made them commit horrible murders in the name of dark forces. Bloody Mary's mansion became a place of terror, and no one dared go near it. The town became an abandoned and cursed place. Margaret continued to live in her black robe and hat, hiding from the world. The legend of Bloody Mary is still as alive and creepy as Margaret herself, who continues her atrocities, thirsting for blood and revenge on those who dare stand in her way. This story reminds us that even in the darkest corners of the world can hide secrets and horrors, and sometimes it is better not to reveal them. Many years have passed since those events, and the town where Bloody Mary once lived has been covered in dust and forgotten. People avoided the place, and its name became a symbol of horror and death. However, one night, on the night of the same blood moon that appeared many years ago, something strange happened in the town. The howling of the wind and the clinking of breaking glass woke the residents, and they saw that the windows and doors of their homes had been shattered to pieces. Each house was framed with red blood that ran down the walls and streets. People tried to flee in terror, but something kept them in this cursed city. And then she appeared, Margaret in a black robe and hat, with an inhuman gaze that glittered in the darkness. Margaret was resurrected and returned to the world of the living to continue her atrocities. Using her dark powers, she destroyed those who dared to return to the city. Her eyes glittered with evil magic and no one could resist her. The city drowned in blood and fear. People fell prey to her bloodlust, and she disappeared into the darkness, leaving behind only destruction and death. The legend of Bloody Mary became even more alive than before and eventually spread far beyond the city. People were afraid to even whisper her name lest they attract her attention. Since then, the town has remained dead and cursed, becoming a symbol of horror and death. And Margaret, the Bloody Mary, continues her never-ending struggle for blood and vengeance, remaining eternally alive and malevolent. Her story reminds us that some secrets are always best kept under lock and key, lest they awaken ancient forces of evil that can only bring fear and doom. Over time, Bloody Mary has become an object of interest to many researchers and mystic hunters. Her legend became a worldwide bogeyman, and many tried to find a way to stop this evil. However, no matter what attempts were made, Margaret continued her murderous rampages. She seemed invulnerable, and her power only grew with time. Her curse grew stronger and spread far beyond the small village. Some daredevils embarked on a dangerous journey to the abandoned town, hoping to unravel the mystery of Bloody Mary and find a way to destroy her. Some believed that the key to her demise lay in the past, and the events that led to her terrible curse. And so many explorers and hunters set out, but few returned. Those who did return were exhausted and broken, and carried with them only the terrible memories of their encounter with Bloody Mary. As the years passed, Margaret became more and more lonely and insane. Her bloody murders became more and more brutal and merciless. She lost her human form and turned into a monster, and her voice became more and more sinister. The legend of Bloody Mary lived on, and many tried to warn others against approaching this dark place. But despite all the warnings, there were always those who dared to try their fate and explore this diabolical city. Bloody Mary remains an eternal mystical mystery, a symbol of fear and horror that continues to torment the minds and nightmares of those who dare to approach those places of eternal darkness and blood. Her story serves as a lesson that some misadventures are best left in the past, and forgotten horror should not be awakened from the dead.